Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Sasquatch Army Podcast, Episode 2. My name is Dave as usual, and I'm here with Lance all the way from Ontario, Canada to continue his part of the story that we were left off at last week. How's it going there?
Not too bad, eh? Pretty good.
Yeah, been about the same for me. How was your weekend?
Not too bad. Again.
Yeah, we had to restart this.
It was quiet. But it's always generally quiet in this small town.
Yeah, it's pretty quiet here, but only at night for some reason.
Oh, that's not good. We get quiet here most of the winter. Till summertime picks up and then all the tourists show up.
I bet you love that.
Not really. Can't get into the grocery store.
They're all up on there on their little vacations.
Yeah, you gotta take that vacation.
Yeah, you want some of my rain?
Yeah, I'll take some.
Yeah, you were supposed to go to your spot this past weekend, right? Or was it a couple days ago?
Yeah, it was actually, I was supposed to go today, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
But unfortunately, it got way too cold. It was like minus 20 today.
Minus 20.
Yeah.
No, thank
So
you.
That was a bit too cold for me.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I took a pass on it.
It's been pretty mild here the past couple of days.
Oh, that'd be nice.
Yeah, but it's all slush now, and once it goes back to freezing, all of the snow on the ground's gonna turn to ice, and then all the asshole drivers are gonna come out again.
Yep. That's what happened around here, too. Rained all day yesterday, and then it froze over. Like I said, it dropped down to minus 20. And boy, everything froze up real good.
Now, the Sasquatch up there, I mean, how do they keep warm? That's one question I've always wondered. In really, really low temperature areas, I mean, look at the Yeti up in the Himalayas, in Nepal.
Yeah.
Like, how do they stay warm? Do they just have a very hyperactive metabolism which keeps them warm, or?
That's a good one, actually. Never thought of it. Never thought of that.
Yeah.
I just gone on by what I've heard in my particular area anyways, is that there are cave systems around here. It's just that as far as First Nations go and stuff like that, they won't talk about them. They'll talk about the ones that are along the main river. But as far as any of the other ones, they won't talk about them. They won't discuss them for some strange reason.
Probably to get people, or keep people like us away from them.
Yeah.
That want to
That's
go
why
up and see.
I strongly believe in my area where I've been looking at is that they either got a shelter made or they found a cave to hold up in. Because like minus 20, I can understand tolerating that. But sometimes here in northern Ontario, it gets down to minus 50. Easily overnight. So, you know what I mean? Like, you've got to stay warm.
Yeah.
And that hair is only going to keep you warm for so long before you start exhausting too much body heat.
Exactly. So that's an interesting question. I haven't heard a lot, is how they stay warm. They obviously don't hibernate. Well, maybe some do. We don't know.
I think they'll, like in the harshest winter, the harshest conditions, they'll hunker down. Just like same thing what we would do when in the wintertime, like people will get cabin fever.
Yep.
Because they've been held up in a cabin for so long, they haven't been able to get out. They're going to do the same kind of deal if the weather's too bad.
Sounds like me every winter. Get me the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
So I believe we left off last time with the sighting behind your house.
Yes.
Why don't you take it away from there? Because I'm curious to hear the rest.
Okay, well, after that, I met a friend, I guess you can say, on Facebook, or we became friends, and I was talking to him that night on what was going on, and that's when he started asking me where I lived and all this. And I mentioned to him where I live, and he asked if he could come up. So I was like, okay, yeah, sure, come on up. He came up, and we were heading down that way, and about maybe halfway down the road, I caught out of the corner of my eye some tracks that were just off the side of the road. I backed up the car, got out, and I pointed to him. I said, "Look at these tracks. That's not a moose. That's not a bear. That's not anything. You know what that is." And we tried to walk in the snow, but the snow went up to my knees. And whatever this was, it only went into the snow maybe 6 inches.
Well, that's odd because of they're so heavy, they're so big. I mean, unless it's a juvenile or something like that. But you got to figure the poundage on these things, barely going to the snow, and you're up to your knees.
I was up to my knees walking in the snow, and these tracks were quite big. Like, I've got photos. Actually, I'll send you the pictures when I get the chance.
Yeah, if you have them, we'll put them up in this episode.
Yeah, I'll send you the picture. There's a picture of me in the shot, pointing off in the direction that the tracks are going. But the snow was too deep, and so we didn't go in any further. We got back into the vehicle and continued down the road, and that's where I saw, again, the tracks came out in a half circle, and it came back out onto the road again. So I'm guessing it was walking down the road, somebody or something came down the road, and it just skipped off into the bush until whatever it was drove by, and then it just got back on the road again. At least that's what I think happened.
Well, unlike deer or anything running across your path, or else it'd pull a Harry and the Hendersons on that one.
That's one thing I spent a lot of time on. Is I like tracking things.
Yeah,
animals,
trackways.
whatever. And that's what I interpreted there that day. Just by that half moon walk around the road.
Yep, it was.
Walking through the bush would be far more of a pain in the ass, but if you've got a smooth surface in the wintertime, you're going to take it.
Oh, of course, a direct route.
Yeah.
Unless you're trying to avoid something.
Yeah. And that's, I think, whatever this one was doing did. Like a car was coming down the road or a snow machine or something, it just stepped off the road, waited for it to go by and come back out.
What happened after that? After you saw the tracks the second time?
We went to my spot, and the only thing I could hear off in the distance was rock clacking. But it was very sporadic and very faint. So I didn't put too much into it at the time, because there was nothing other than that. The whole area was just dead quiet. It was almost kind of eerie, and that I recall mentioning to Jamie that it was almost, I almost had the feeling like we were being watched. It was that quiet.
That uncomfortable quiet.
Pardon me?
That uncomfortable quiet.
Yeah. But we went up there and nothing really happened. It was all quiet, so we went, came back to the house. I couldn't continue anymore the next day because my lungs were really bothering me after being out in that in the cold weather.
That'll do it.
So, yeah, so we just rescheduled it for another time for him to come back up in the springtime.
Did he come back?
Pretty much since then, had three, including myself, would make it four. People come to my spot this one night because they had a friend from England come over, and he was into that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I just said to him, I said, well, why don't you come to my spot? We're all here. Why not just go? I'll drive. It's 40 minutes down the road. And the one gentleman there, Peter, said, okay, you know what, we'll go. So I showed up at their place, at their trailer. We all jumped in Peter's truck and headed off down there. And once we got, from the time we got out of the truck to the time activity started, wasn't even, I'd say at least 15 minutes. Wasn't even 15 minutes before it started.
Now, is that a normal thing for that area, for your spot, or?
Considering the other times I've been there and it's been stone quiet, it was abnormal. This started just right, I don't want to use too much profanity if I can help it. I try to be somewhat good. But the moment they threw the first boulder into the water, I heard it at the same time I cursed out a profanity. So it got muffled with the sound of them throwing the boulder.
Mm-hmm.
The one gentleman, his name is also Peter as well. He's from England. He said to me, he goes, what did you hear? And just as I was about to say, you didn't hear that? Boom, it happened again. And then it happened again, and then again, and again, and again. It started just going like crazy, rock after rock after rock. And then that's when one of the people in the group said, let's go sit up on the hill and see what we can how we can interact with them. And he was doing his wood knocking, which I've never seen before. Like, I've never done it, so I've never used it or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But when he would use the wood knocker, they started wood knocking across the way. And from what I could hear, there was at least three of them.
From three separate individuals?
Yeah, there was
wood knocking?
Three different, as far as I could tell that night, there was at least three Sasquatch across from us. There was one that was to the right, maybe 500 meters away, I'm guessing. There was one right across from us, and then there was another one, maybe half the distance of the one on the right. Because it was coming from three distinct locations. Every time he would do a wood knock, each one of them would repeat it. But they'd just do it just once. And then they'd start throwing more boulders into the water and that. And they were throwing really good boulders too. Like, you could hear the boulders hit the bottom of the pond before the splash.
Now,
it was a thud. Splash. It was just like, oh my God.
let me ask you this. With the wood knocking, did you notice any of the wood knocking sound louder than others? Or were they all roughly about the same volume?
No, they were. The sounds were different. Each wood knock was different. Was a little bit different than the other one. That's why I'm still not totally convinced it's wood knocking.
Well, what would you think it?
Like, what I mean as well, it's that like the closest thing we can do to replicate what they do is wood knocking for us. But what I think they do is they clap their hands together.
Oh, that's an interesting hypothesis on that.
If you cup your hands and smack them together the right way, it can sound like a gunshot. And if they've got hands like a catcher's mitt, I can just imagine the sound they could generate with their hands.
You know what? That's actually a really good idea. That's a really good thought.
So that's what I think the wood knock. That's what I think the wood knocking was that night. I don't think it was actually wood knocking. I think it was them cupping their hands together and clapping them together.
Nah, I can't quite do it. Nope, not working out for me. I guess I don't have big enough hands.
I've tried doing it myself. I can get it like somewhat loud, but it takes a few whacks to get the hang of it. You gotta have both hands cupped just right, and poof, and then away it goes.
So what did everybody else in your party think of that while all of this was going on, the rocks and the knocking, quote unquote?
Oh, they were totally fascinated by it. And myself, I stayed about 20 feet behind them, and I just sat on a rock facing the opposite way from where the action was going on, because I felt if anything may happen or get worse, they're going to double back on us, and I didn't want to be in a position where they came up behind us.
Well, that's
so
a good idea.
With my back turned and listened to it for about 45 minutes or so. And then all of a sudden, everything just went quiet and dead. So we thought everything stopped.
Did you hear any movement?
Well, let's just pack up and go. I guess they left the area. They got bored with us and whatever. So we started heading back down the trail. And we just got to the low part of the trail where you would actually be able to see across the water. And then, boom, the boulders and stuff started again. They started throwing stuff at us.
While you were further away?
Yeah, we were still a distance away. So, when that happened, that's when I just said to them, I wonder if I should speak First Nations to them and see what happens. Because I know a little bit of the language. And they said, yeah, well, it couldn't hurt, see what happens. So, they're throwing stuff at us, and I just called out, what are you doing? Everything stopped. As soon as I did that, everything just stopped. They stopped throwing everything. It just went back to dead quiet again. And it was just, that to me was just, it was kind of like a light bulb in my head, but at the same time a very scary thing at the same time.
Do you think maybe they've heard it before, or?
Well, it's just my belief. It's just my feeling on the subject, because, I've listened to so many different podcasts and all these different, and so many different stories and all that. So, over hundreds or thousands of years, I'm pretty sure that they would have heard First Nations language before.
Of course.
And maybe might be able to understand it. So I used that in the forest rather than doing whoops and doing wood knocks and things like that, because in reality, no one knows what the hell you're doing anyways. You don't know what that actually means to them, or a wood knock, or, so I was thinking outside the box when I originally started this 6 years ago. And when I first started this 6 years ago, I used that same technique, and I had the shit scared out of me. Pardon my French.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
But the same thing happened. I did a call out, and I don't want to say which particular language, because in the end of the day, I want to keep them safe. But I just spoke out, hello, how are you? And I got a response of 4 ground poundings, 4 thuds in the ground, it was just boom, 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 boom. And it was within 100 meters of me. But I couldn't see through the bush or anything. It was so thick. And that's when I just said, screw it, and I left.
I would have done the same.
Yeah. But then, years on and listening to, like I said, different stories of people talking about what to look for in the forest, I did that. I followed it. And lo and behold, there's something to it. And I've been amazed ever since.
Have you brought anybody back?
Pardon me?
Have you brought anybody back to your location since?
Not since that time.
Have they wanted to go back?
The only person that has ever gone back to the area has been me.
That surprises me, though, because I would think that after such an experience, the other people with you would say, "Hey, I'd love to go back there with some cameras and some audio, equipment, some good stuff, and see what we can get." And the fact that they didn't.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought too. But the next day, Peter and his wife, they had plans to go somewhere. So it was just going to be me, the other gentleman named Peter, and Jamie. And, but then Jamie changed his mind, and he went off to go somewhere else for whatever reason. I still don't know. So it was just me and Peter from England. And at that point, I just got frustrated. Like, I couldn't figure out why, We had so much activity. It's sitting right there. We need to document this. And that's what I thought we were going back to do. But half the people didn't want to show up, so that just made me mad, and I just went home.
I would have been upset after thinking that, you got people coming back, you're going to go out, and then they kind of blow you off.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I think we're about ready to head into the first break. So we'll continue this in a minute. We'll be back in a moment with the Sasquatch Army Podcast. Well, that was a pretty quick break, and we're back.
Yay! Never fear, the army is here.
We have yet to build an army, but when we do...
One viewer at a time. Please click, like, and subscribe. Even if you hate us, give us a thumbs down.
Yeah. They always say,
even if you don't
even
like what we're having to say, even if you think we're full of you-know-what, that's okay.
What do they say about bad press? So, you got a couple of things you still wanted to close out on?
Well, yeah, actually, there was an investigation I was supposed to do, but I never got around to it. But I did do some investigating with regards to just on Google Earth to look at the person's property relative to my area because it was not too far away from there. And then that's when I discovered there's a broken waterway because in my area there's a lot of rock in the ground, and then there's clay, then dirt and stuff like that. But the waterway's all broken, and it'll seep through the rock and then join up again in another area, then you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It has that staggeredness to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've followed it right from Google Earth, right from my spot, all the way to his back of his house. And on this person's property, he happens to have it's a hobby farm that he has there. But he also has a hay field. He has corn he grows there in the summertime. He has an apple orchard. And one of the things that he first noticed was all the apples 10 feet and up, 10 feet all the way up to 10 feet. The apples were being picked off. But all the apples on the ground were still there.
So they're being picked from a very specific height.
Yeah. And he thought that was very strange because, like, he's lived here all his life. He's a hunter. He knows. You know, he knows what bears will do. He knows what deer or moose will do. You know, there was no deer scat. There was no moose scat found around. He didn't find anything like that. That's what he found so unusual about it. Because even if the deer are around, they're going to go after the fruit on the ground. Then you're going to find their scat everywhere.
Yep.
But there was nothing.
Smart pills everywhere on the ground.
Pardon me?
Smart pills. You never heard that before?
No, I haven't.
It might be from an upstate thing. My father used to say that. My grandfather, too. Deer shit.
Oh.
Yeah, they're smart pills for any idiot that'll pick them up off the ground and eat them. They'll make you smart. Go ahead, try one.
Okay, well, we will say, like, don't eat the chocolate mints off the path or something like that.
Yeah, same concept.
Hey, look, someone left some candies.
Go ahead, Jimmy,
Oh,
try
you
one.
fool.
You know, one of the ideas that guys should do is, during the times like where the apples are missing, scatter some stuff around, see if there can be any tracks found. You know, like put down some sawdust around the tree.
Oh, yeah.
See if anything
Yeah,
scatters.
if I ever see the gentleman, I will mention that to him. Like, I know to get a hold of him would be really, really easy. It'd just be kind of weird, because I got to go through another person to contact him. And I don't know if they know about the situation or if he talked to them about it or anything.
Oh, so you can't get a hold of him
directly.
directly?
Mention something and have him look like he's a crazy person.
Mm-hmm.
When he could be just trying to keep this quiet, try to figure it out for himself. Or trying to figure it out for himself.
Yep. Well, I think that's about a wrap-up time, unless you have anything else.
At the moment, I'm stumped until I can get back out there.
I hear you, but with the winter time, you know.
Yeah, everything is slow moving.
Don't have any snowshoes on my end.
No, me neither.
Well, next week, I think the topic at hand will be northeastern United States Sasquatch sightings and reports. So, from all of us here at the Sasquatch Army, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night from wherever you are. Until next time.